right. I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakak Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is called Shutdowns. And this is pretty much going into how you have a lot of stores closing down, which pretty much means that the economy of America is suffering, and pretty much one of the main companies or group of companies that are really catching hell are these different the restaurant business is really suffering the most, and pretty much what that's going to lead to are famines. And if you notice, they so-called opened up, or they slacked off of the lockdown to open up businesses to allow the restaurant businesses to open, liquor to be sold at the bars, but they were only given about 25% open policy. In other words, they couldn't serve 100% of the people. They had to only serve about 25%. Now in some states, they're slowly but surely starting to shut everything back down, the bars, dining. And with this whole lockdown, what has happened is a lot of restaurants have gone out of business, and the very few that are still around, the bigger ones, they're suffering, and they're only able to operate at 25%. So if they do another shutdown, that means all of these different restaurant businesses are going to shut down permanently. And I was thinking about this, I was meditating on this the other day, how they're trying to shut all the businesses down, but mainly the food businesses, and mainly they're shutting down the plants. The food supply chain is breaking down. But one of the main things they want to shut down is the restaurant business, because in this country of America, the people are used to having everything instant. That's why you have fast foods, mostly fast foods, and these different restaurants are pretty much mostly frozen foods, frozen foods and processed foods that they pull out the freezer or the fridge and heat up and just serve to the customers, and that's going to cause people to panic, because most people today they were under such a heavy schedule of work, because they had to work multiple jobs in order to make ends meet. And when the whole shutdown came, they were used to just going to a Chinese restaurant, or your Burger Kings or your McDonald's, or somewhere they could get a quick bite to eat, and just keep it moving, because they didn't really have much time to cook. Well, now they're starting to shut things down, and eventually what's going to happen is, this is going to lead to starvation, because you got to remember, the average American is not used to waiting to eat. They don't have the discipline to what that it takes to wait to eat, for someone to prepare them a whole meal from scratch. They're used to eating on the go, going to these different restaurants, ordering stuff, going through the drive-thru, mainly to the drive-thru, because they're too goddamn lazy to get out their car. Everything is just instant, and when they shut shit down, most jakes out there don't know how to hunt. Most jakes out there don't know how to survive, if it's not through the infrastructure of the government. And this is why everything is set up that way, mainly for Jake, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, to to be dependent on the government. So we can see how this whole lockdown that is destroying these businesses, especially the restaurant business, is going to lead to these famines that the scriptures speak about. The scriptures speak about famines many different times. You know, it speaks about different types of judgments. You know, the dogs that tear, you know, the sword to slay. You know, you have the famines, pestilence, plagues, and all of that. And this is going to lead to that. So these shutdowns are very detrimental to keeping things open. Now, as I was scrolling through the my subscriptions, I noticed that there were a couple of videos on what's the word I'm looking for? Printing food. You know, in other words, the technology of slapping stuff together and making it meat as a meat substitute is going to be a reality. You had Bill Gates and Tyson Foods that actually agreed to make a synthetic type of meat, you know, to feed these people. And this is why they're systematically shutting down all of these different plants, because they're trying to get rid of real food and bring in these GMOs or these lab created foods that are going to break down people's immune system even more than what it already is, you know. So we can see how these famines are going to come and how these devils are using that as a means to control the people, to really push this mark of the beast. Because at the end of the day, everything we see going on, whether it's rioting and looting, whatever's happening around the world, you know, socially, economically, or whatever, it's all centered around pushing the mark of the beast, which is the microchip. And they want to, and the greatest, one of the greatest motivators besides fear is what? Hunger. So if they have the people in a corner where they're hungry and their only option will be the new deal, which would be you accept this microchip and you'll be able to eat. Most people are not going to know enough or have enough integrity not accept the mark of the beast, you know, so that they can eat. You know, then they wouldn't be willing to hold out and hope in the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai to deliver them and to give them, you know, something to eat. They would rather just go ahead and sell out, so to speak, to Esau so that they could eat. Remember, going back to the wilderness, what did Jake do? They set up a captain to go back into Egypt, because what was the main thing that they had in Egypt? They had plenty to eat. They were in hell. They were cats in hell. They were in captivity. They were under the iron furnace, as the scriptures call it. But they wanted to go back to Egypt. Why? Because they'd rather suffer the pain of slavery and works so that they can eat the food that they were eating in Egypt freely. You know, the garlics and the leeks and the cucumbers and the this and the that. You know, all the different foods that they were eating in Egypt. So these same people that are out here, these same Jakes that are out here, are those same spirits that were back then. So they're going to resort back to the same thing, you know, because they don't have the eye salve, or they don't have the oil through the spirit power of Yahweh Bashem Rakakodash through these scriptures to be stable through the knowledge and wisdom of the scriptures in these times. Because yeah, you may eat for now, you may enjoy that food for now, and you may think that nothing's happening to you because you might take the mark of the beast, you might have the chip implanted in you, and you'll be working, you'll be eating, you'll be having a good time, but eventually that good time is going to come to an end. You know, that good time is going to come to an end, and judgment is going to be required. And the judgment is going to come in form of what? The destruction. Whether it be, well, ultimately, if you take the mark of the beast, you're going to be destroyed by thermonuclear destruction. Bottom line. You know, that is the ultimate judgment of those that sell out and take the mark of the beast. You know? So these shutdowns are very detrimental to the economy, and the economy is the main thing keeping this country propped up, and it's not doing good. It's not doing very good. It's really on an IV. It's on its deathbed, but it's like a person that's already pretty much clinically dead, but they have them attached to a respirator machine, and the respirator machine is breathing for them, and it's making it seem like they're still alive, so that they may be hope that they might come out of that situation, but they're really dead. And once the machine is stopped, they won't be breathing anymore, because the machine won't be doing the breathing for them, because they really are basically dead. So that's what this economy is like. The economy of America is pretty much dead, and it's pretty much on life support. And once they pull that plug, it's going to be over. So there's going to be a lot of disasters going on, and that's why the scriptures say that they that look out of the windows are going to be frightened, because they're going to see that this place is finished. There's not going to be any jobs. The food supply is breaking down. When you go to these different restaurants, the menus are on a limited menu, and there's nothing in sight that's saying that it will be over with. That they will have a full menu or even half a menu anymore. Every time you go to these restaurants, you have to eat what they got, and they don't have what you normally have. So if you had something that was your favorite, you're not going to be able to get it, because they're operating under a limited menu. Because then you go to certain places, and then they'll tell you, well, there's no meat or there's no beef, so you have to be forced to eat whatever other meat they may have. So it's systematic what's going down. We're coming down to the wire, to the end, and pretty much, these shutdowns are causing a major effect on the economy of America, and the world too. But we're dealing with America since we're here, and these synthetic foods, these GMO foods, pretty much all go back to, as the scriptures say, that we shall eat our bread defiled among the Gentiles. And these defiled foods, which come in the whatever form they come in, GMO, and these different synthetic foods, these different what's the word I'm looking for? These different processed foods do not have the nutrients and the fiber and the minerals and the enzymes in them to help the digestive system push out, the junk that is eaten. And that's why you see people morbidly obese, because they're morbidly obese because the food that they're eating is just being stored in their body as fat, because the body doesn't know what to do with that foreign stuff. It's used to cucumbers and lettuce and kale, and tomatoes, and certain types of starches, certain types of fruits and vegetables, and when you put this synthetic stuff in there, the body doesn't know what to do with it. So what does it do? It stores it as fat, as a reserve for later, so that it can go back and use that when it needs it. You see, when you need the energy. So this whole system is breaking down, man. You can see it happening, and these shutdowns are causing, not only are they causing businesses and jobs to be lost, but it's also causing, a real serious issue with the food supply, the food chain, and the shortage of food, and the average American is pretty much not used to rationing food and eating food, in moderation. They're used to stuffing their food every 20 minutes. Every time you turn around, every 5-10 minutes, the average American is stuffing their face with something. So yeah, man, it's going to be interesting. It's just like when you hooked on cigarettes and you don't have any cigarettes, and the cigarettes are rationed out to you. You go into a panic mode. because you got this cigarette and you got to make that cigarette last so you get the next one. So it's very interesting to see what's happening and what's going on in America today. So these shutdowns are very detrimental to the economy, and it's very detrimental to the food supply. And they're systematically shutting these restaurants down so that the American people will not have the ability to go to a restaurant to get food, and will have to rely solely on the government, and certain aid that the government gives, in order to be able to be sustained and to be able to survive, man. So just keep your eye out for these shutdowns. Many different corporations are shutting down, many different businesses and restaurants, food plants are shutting down, and it's going to get worse. There's no coincidence that the CEOs, the top corporation CEOs, at the end of 2019 into 2020 resigned because they know something is coming down the pike. They were told that they had to bounce, just like when you go back to believe it was prior to World War One, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm sorry. It was during the just before the Great Depression. Joe Kennedy, which was the patriarch of the Kennedy family, was told by other sources that the crash was coming, and he told his friends to take all of their substance out so that they won't get caught. So that's what's happening right now. The CEOs bouncing. So when you read Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter, it tells us about these businesses going out of business and people mourning because they're not going to have any work. And even worse than that, as the scriptures speak about these famines, people are going to really be in trouble when it comes to these famines and the lack of bread out here, and this is all part of prophecy. So with that, I pray that you brothers have been edified. Till the next time I say shalom.